Hi, I am Sabrina. I think of myself as a storyteller. I tell stories through performance, through writing, and through directing. I have a background in journalism. I think one of the greatest silent acts of violence happening in British society today is the erasure of our presence as Black people throughout history. We didn't mushroom up out of the ground a few decades back. We've been here all along. I think of Black History Month as a chance to stop that violence, because Black history is world history, because Black history is British history. Black history for me is not an event to discuss over 31 days, close the chapter, see you next year. We are not written about in the history books or the school curriculum. That refusal to include us is an act of erasure, which is why some of the writings of South African anti-apartheid activist Stephen Bantu Biko remain crucial in today's world. Biko said, "The most important weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed." Biko grew up in a racially segregated system. It was written into law. Its effects was denying Black people the right to humanity. Now, what has that got to do with us here on our little island? Our exclusion from the history books and the refusal to make Black history part of the school curriculum results in damage to our psyches. It has the impact of convincing society that we do not belong. And to us as Black people, it has the effect of making us look at our identity in relation to a systematic discrimination that we face on a daily basis. Now, through the Black consciousness movement, Biko's activism knew that it was urgent to look at ourselves through our lens and not what is placed on us by a racist system. Biko said, Black consciousness is merely a methodology or a means towards an end. What Black consciousness seeks to do is to produce at the output end of the process real Black people who do not regard themselves as appendages to white society. This truth cannot be reversed. We do not need to apologize for this, because it is true that the white systems have produced through the world a number of people who are not aware that they too are people. In Britain, when Black History Month rolls around, it is commonplace to go to slavery first. What is not commonplace is to talk about who is responsible for slavery. In the British context, there are two crucial things that we can simply understand as facts about slavery. When slavery ended, slavers were compensated. Number two, it took 182 years to compensate the slave traders. The way slavery is discussed, it feeds our minds the idea that slavery is our heritage as Black people. Slavery isn't our heritage. It is what happened to our heritage. Biko said, "We are aware of the terrible role played by our education and religion in creating amongst us a false understanding of ourselves. We must therefore work out schemes not only to correct this, but further to be our own authorities rather than wait to be interpreted by others." In Britain today, when we talk about equalizing society, there's normally a rush to talking about training schemes because it keeps the power in one place. It continues to assume that knowledge is only in white hands. Biko's call was that even if there are training schemes, as Black people, we must look to self. Biko went on to say, Black consciousness seeks to demonstrate the lie that Black is an aberration from the, in quotes, normal, which is white. It seeks to infuse the Black community with a newfound pride in themselves, their efforts, their value systems, their culture, their religion, and their outlook to life. I think some of the greatest damage caused by slavery and colonialism to Black people that still echoes today is that of broken links in communities. It is the division and sometimes suspicions among other ethnicities who also experience racism. The great damage of how various ethnicities were ranked unequally during slavery, during colonialism, echoes through today. Biko saw that as a strategic plan. In Britain, all of us who are not white are called BAME, a term we now seek to eradicate. I quite like global majority. What Biko would think about that now, I don't know. But what we do know from his writing is that he knew that all people systematically oppressed need to unite. Biko said, what we should at all times look at is the fact that we are all oppressed by the same system. That we are oppressed to varying degrees is a deliberate sign to stratify us, not only socially, but also in terms of aspirations. Therefore, it is to be expected that in terms of the enemy's plan, there must be this suspicion, and that if we are committed to the problem of emancipation to the same degree, it is part of our duty to bring to the attention of the Black people the deliberateness of the enemy's subjugation scheme. As a girl, the first doll I played with was a white doll. They didn't make dolls like me back then. All the books I read had white characters in them. What a way to plant invisibility of self in the mind of a little child. Today in Britain, we talk about increasing representation as if it's a dial that will, once turned to a certain level, will reach the maximum numerical value that will signal we've reached representation. It's not about representation, it's about equalizing. It's about being seen in all the complexity of our humanity. We are not a diversity spice to add flavor to things in little pinches. One of the best slogans to emerge from decades of seeking inclusion in society is, Black is beautiful. Biko said, Black is beautiful challenges exactly that belief which makes someone negate themselves. When you say, Black is beautiful, what in fact you are saying to him is, man, you are okay as you are. Begin to look upon yourself as a human being. I think I would remind Biko, if he was alive today, that woman is included. Singer, songwriter, and activist Peter Gabriel wrote some of the perfect, most beautiful words to describe Steve Biko's contribution. You can blow out a candle, but you can't blow out a fire. Once the flame begins to catch, the wind will blow it higher. Oh, Biko, 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 Biko. Oh, Biko, 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 Biko.